Oak Island's North Swamp. Something ancient is stirring. For generations, this patch of land was dismissed as nothing more than soggy earth, a tangle of reeds, insects, and stagnant water. Explorers passed it by, convinced that the island's real secrets lay elsewhere. Yet, after centuries of unanswered questions, new technology has revealed that the truth may have been hiding here all along, buried deep under layers of time and silence. When Rick and Marty Legina decided to investigate the North Swamp, even their closest team members doubted the idea. The ground was unstable, the water unpredictable, and the mud seemed endless. But Rick had always felt drawn to that place. Something about it seemed wrong, or perhaps too right. Strange tales had lingered for years, metallic clanks echoing from beneath the water, sudden chills in the air, and an occasional scent like burning metal drifting through the mist. For decades, those stories were brushed aside as myths. But this time, with modern instruments and sharper minds, the team set out to uncover what truly lay beneath the swamp. The first scans using ground-penetrating radar, GPR, changed everything. At first, the readings looked normal, layers of sediment, rock, and roots. Then the screen showed something impossible. Sharp, geometric lines, perfect right angles, a rectangular formation buried far below the surface, precise and symmetrical, far too deliberate to be nature's work. As the GPR swept further, metallic reflections began to appear. Then, tunnels, straight, even, stretching outward from the structure like the veins of a machine. The entire team froze. They all knew the same truth. Nature doesn't make rectangles. Something had been built here, intentionally, carefully, and secretly. When Rick saw the final scan, he whispered, "This isn't natural. Someone wanted this hidden." That moment changed everything. Soon after, the swamp itself began behaving strangely. The equipment malfunctioned. Batteries drained faster than normal. Cameras flickered and cut to static. A worker's compass spun in circles, refusing to point north. It was as if the island was reacting, as if something beneath the surface was alive, aware that it was being discovered. Whispers spread quickly among the crew. Some said it might be a hidden Templar vault, a place where the Knights once stored their greatest treasures or sacred relics. Others whispered darker ideas, that the swamp concealed something non-human, something ancient and powerful. But no one expected what would happen next. When Discovery Channel began documenting the excavation, everything seemed to proceed as usual. The crew set up cameras, the excavators began digging, and tension filled the air. But then, as they reached the exact coordinates shown in the radar scans, all recording abruptly stopped. Within minutes, the set descended into chaos. Crew members were ordered to clear the area. Heated discussions erupted among producers. Filming was shut down without explanation. Later, when the episode aired, the section covering that dig had been completely removed, replaced by filler footage and vague narration. Viewers immediately noticed the missing footage. Online forums lit up with speculation. Some claimed they had seen a flicker of blue light in leaked clips before the footage vanished. Others swore the sound crew recorded a low, mechanical hum echoing beneath the ground. Discovery Network gave no comment, and the Legina brothers, usually transparent and open with fans, suddenly went silent. That silence spoke louder than any words could. Workers who remained at the site described bizarre phenomena: GPS systems malfunctioning, metal detectors beeping at empty patches of mud, and the faint vibration of something mechanical deep below their feet. One man swore he felt the ground pulse, as though something was breathing down there. Within days, 2 crew members resigned. Officially, they cited personal reasons. Unofficially, people whispered they were too afraid to continue. Then the theories exploded. Some believed they had discovered a metallic vault built by the Knights Templar, possibly to protect sacred artifacts. Others were convinced the swamp was covering an ancient machine, a relic from a forgotten civilization. And a few, daring to cross into fringe speculation, claimed it might be an extraterrestrial craft buried for centuries beneath Canadian soil. The mystery only deepened when an 18th century map of Oak Island surfaced from a private collection. The map showed a single, hand-drawn circle exactly over the North Swamp. Someone, centuries ago, had marked that spot as significant, but no one knew why. As the investigation pressed deeper, the evidence became stranger. The longer the team studied the swamp, the less it behaved like a simple body of water. Every instrument brought to the site, from compasses to electromagnetic sensors, began to act as though some invisible force was disturbing them. Readings fluctuated wildly, cameras flickered, and batteries that were brand new drained to zero within minutes. At first, the team thought it might be a coincidence, perhaps a simple case of interference from underground minerals. But as one technician later said, "Minerals don't pulse. This thing was alive." The radar data was reanalyzed, frame by frame. Deep below the mud lay a rectangular structure, smooth, solid, and precise. Its surface gave off metallic echoes that shouldn't have been possible for natural rock. Surrounding it were tunnel-like channels that branched outward, perfectly aligned with each other, as though they had been designed by engineers rather than carved by erosion. Then, something even more bizarre appeared. Faint reflections forming what looked like a circular chamber at the center. Some on the team began calling it the core. When Rick saw the composite scan, he grew silent. The lines, the shapes, the orientation, everything felt deliberate. He said quietly, "It's not just something buried, it's something constructed." That realization sent a chill through everyone on site. Soon, strange phenomena began spreading beyond the equipment. Crew members started reporting physical symptoms, sudden headaches, dizziness, nausea, which vanished the moment they stepped away from the swamp. A few described feeling a low vibration beneath their boots, like the hum of a machine turning beneath the earth. The mystery deepened when the team invited outside geophysicists to verify their findings. The scientists arrived skeptical until their own instruments began to fail. One of them recorded rhythmic magnetic pulses, repeating every 40 seconds. It was steady, patterned, and completely unnatural. "It's like something below us is turning on and off," one of the scientists says puzzily.
Men said. Word of the anomaly spread fast. Theories multiplied. Was this a natural geological effect? An ancient technology? Or something more extraordinary? Something left behind by people who understood energy in ways modern science could barely imagine. Then came the night that changed everything. Sensors left running after dark began recording strange electromagnetic spikes around midnight. At the same time, locals living near the island reported seeing faint lights over the swamp, bluish-white orbs that hovered and faded without a sound. Fishermen claimed their radios picked up bursts of static, as if some hidden signal were trying to break through. By morning, the data was undeniable. The swamp wasn't dead, it was active. Official vehicles began arriving on the island. The Canadian authorities declared the area off-limits for safety and environmental concerns. Heavy equipment was ordered to stop immediately. Security personnel began patrolling the perimeter, turning away anyone without clearance. To the public, it was framed as a temporary pause, but those on the island knew better. Unmarked vans and scientific equipment arrived in the night. The team was told to cease all exploration and hand over their data. Within a week, most of the excavation crew had been dismissed. Cameras were removed, even drones were grounded. When Discovery Channel resumed filming months later, the North Swamp segment was barely mentioned. What had been hours of footage turned into a few vague sentences about unstable terrain. But insiders whispered about what really happened, that government scientists detected something far beyond ordinary geology. A source close to the operation described a sustained electromagnetic field beneath the swamp, one that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. Whatever was generating it wasn't mechanical, at least not in any modern sense. The readings were constant, rhythmic, and powerful enough to distort nearby electronics. For Rick and Marty, the shutdown marked the beginning of a deeper silence. Once open and eager to share every discovery, they now avoided public discussion about the swamp entirely. When pressed in interviews, Rick would only say, "We found something that shouldn't be there." Marty's response was even more cryptic. "What
We saw, we can't explain, and maybe we shouldn't try." Part 4. Theories and Fear. Theories soon flooded every corner of the internet. Some claimed the swamp hid a Templar vault, a refuge built to protect ancient relics, possibly even the Ark of the Covenant itself. Others suggested it might conceal a piece of lost technology, a relic of an advanced civilization erased from history. What made these theories more than fantasy were the physical clues. Researchers discovered that the swamp's tunnel pattern matched ancient architectural ratios found in temples and pyramids across the world. Even more eerie, the alignment of the tunnels mirrored the constellation of Orion, a pattern found in sacred sites from Egypt to Central America. If true, that meant whoever built beneath Oak Island had astronomical knowledge far beyond their time. Then there was the old 14th century manuscript Rick uncovered in a private archive. It described a brotherhood who sailed west to guard the light that must never fade, and spoke of a temple of water and clay. For Rick, the connection was undeniable. The swamp wasn't hiding treasure. It was concealing power. As weeks turned into months, whispers began spreading among historians, engineers, and even military researchers. The scans from Oak Island's North Swamp, though classified, somehow leaked into private research circles. Experts who analyzed the images saw something familiar. The geometric pattern beneath the mud matched the internal design of energy chambers from ancient civilizations.
Oak Island's structure could have been using the natural magnetic lines of the Earth to create a constant, pulsating energy, exactly what the crew's instruments had detected. Her words stirred the world of academia. If she was right, Oak Island wasn't just home to hidden treasure, it was a lost power site, a relic of a civilization that understood the Earth in ways we've long forgotten. Soon, researchers began connecting dots that had been ignored for years. Old ship logs from the 1600s mentioned lights rising from the island, like breath from a dragon. A 1753 fisherman's journal described his compass spinning like a wheel near the swamp. Even early treasure hunters wrote about hearing hollow sounds when walking across the northern shore, as if something vast and metallic lay beneath their feet. Rick reviewed every piece of this evidence late into the nights, spreading maps and ancient texts across the table in the research cabin. The deeper he dug, the more he realized the island's mystery wasn't about wealth, it was about knowledge. Could the Templars, the Micmac, or some unknown order have discovered this energy and built the swamp to hide it? And if they did, why? Part 6. The Return to the Swamp. After months of silence, Rick decided he had to go back. The government had restricted full access, but under the guise of environmental inspection, he managed to return to the swamp's edge one gray afternoon. The air was heavy, still, and unusually warm for early spring. A light mist hung over the water, and the surface shimmered with faint ripples, even though there was no wind. He stood there, staring at the spot where the radar had shown the mysterious rectangular chamber months earlier. Every sound around him, the gulls, the creaking trees, the water lapping, seemed muffled, as if the island itself were holding its breath. Rick knelt down and pressed his hand against the ground. The mud was cool, but faintly vibrating, just as it had been before. For a moment, he thought he could hear something beneath it.
A slow, rhythmic thrum, deep and steady, like the heartbeat of the earth. He whispered, "You're still alive, aren't you?" The air shifted. A low hum filled the space around him, growing stronger. Tiny ripples spread outward on the water, forming perfect circles. The magnetic compass in his jacket pocket began spinning again, faster and faster, until it snapped off its needle. Rick stepped back, heart pounding. The hum continued for nearly a full minute, then faded into silence. The swamp became still again, as if nothing had happened. But he knew what he had felt. The energy beneath the swamp wasn't just residual, it was active. It was aware. Part 7. The Pattern Revealed. When Rick returned to the mainland, he shared what he'd experienced with Marty and the remaining crew. Together, they reanalyzed all the old data, overlaying the swamp's layout onto ancient world maps. That's when the final pattern emerged, and it shocked everyone. The geometric formation of the tunnels and chamber beneath the swamp matched the sacred pattern of Solomon's temple, rotated 180 degrees and aligned perfectly with the island's magnetic north. The proportions were exact, down to the meter. If that was true, then whoever built beneath Oak Island had encoded one of history's most mysterious blueprints into the earth itself. The implications were enormous. The Temple of Solomon was said to have housed divine energy, the light of wisdom, a force capable of creation and destruction. Many believed the Templars guarded fragments of this knowledge, passing it down through symbols, architecture, and secret texts. Had they built a new version of it beneath Oak Island, using the swamp as its veil? Rick and Marty were speechless. They weren't just chasing a treasure, they were standing on top of an ancient power source designed to remain hidden until humanity was ready. Part 8. The Hidden Connection. But the deeper they dug, the more resistance they faced. Historical archives that once held key documents about the island were suddenly closed for review. Experts who had worked with the team began retracting their statements, claiming they'd been misquoted. And then the most disturbing development occurred. A shipment of core samples taken from the swamp mysteriously vanished in transit. When officials were questioned, no record of the shipment could be found, as though it had never existed. The last message Rick received from one of the researchers read only, "Stop digging, it's not meant to be found." Then the contact disappeared. For Rick, that was the final confirmation. Whatever lay beneath Oak Island wasn't just a historical curiosity. It was something guarded, maybe even protected. It happened again, only this time, everyone saw it. Months after Rick's secret visit, the swamp came alive one night in a display that defied logic. Several island workers, fishermen on the nearby shore, and even locals in the town across the bay witnessed a glow rising from the north swamp. It began faintly, a soft bluish light just beneath the surface, and then grew brighter, pulsing rhythmically like the beat of a hidden heart. Some said the light formed a perfect circle before fading. Others swore they saw shapes moving within it, as if a door was opening beneath the water. The next morning, the swamp looked perfectly normal, but the team's instruments told a different story. The electromagnetic field beneath the area had doubled in strength overnight. Compasses refused to stabilize, drones wouldn't launch, and even satellite imaging returned distorted data. For Rick, this wasn't just another strange event. It was a message. He believed the island was communicating, not in words, but in energy. Something buried beneath the swamp was alive in its own way, reacting to what was happening above it. Perhaps it was never meant to be unearthed, only acknowledged.
Attempt to excavate it had failed. Machines broke down, tools vanished, storms hit without warning, almost as if the island was defending itself. Rick began to see Oak Island not as a mystery to solve, but as a warning written into the earth. Before winter closed in, Rick made one last trip to the swamp. The air was cold and quiet. Ice was beginning to form along the edges of the water, and the trees stood still like silent witnesses. He walked out onto the narrow wooden causeway and stopped halfway, staring at the mist rising from the swamp's center. "This place," he whispered, "was never about gold." He took a slow breath and continued. "It's about faith, about what we choose to believe." He thought about the generations of explorers before him, men who had dug, dreamed, and sometimes died chasing the island's secrets. None of them had realized they might be standing above something sacred, not material wealth, but something spiritual. Rick closed his eyes, feeling the faint vibration beneath his boots one last time. "I don't think it wants to be found," he said quietly. "I think it just wants to be remembered." He turned back toward the shore as the last light of day faded behind him. Today, the North Swamp of Oak Island remains sealed and heavily monitored. Officially, it's protected land. Unofficially, few believe the true reason has ever been shared. Satellite photos still show strange anomalies, faint geometric outlines that appear and disappear depending on the season. Equipment malfunctions continue, and every few months, locals claim to see lights flickering over the water, vanishing as soon as anyone approaches. Historians still debate the swamp's purpose. Some insist it hides a massive vault or a lost Templar artifact. Others, inspired by Rick's quiet conclusion, believe it's a monument, not built to be opened, but to remind humanity that some powers should remain untouched. Whatever the truth, Oak Island's North Swamp stands as one of history's greatest enigmas, a silent guardian of something ancient, powerful, and beyond understanding. As Rick once said in a private note shared with close friends, "The real treasure isn't what lies beneath the island, it's the question that keeps us searching." And perhaps that's what Oak Island has always been, not a mystery to be solved, but a mirror reflecting humanity's endless desire to reach beyond its grasp. New technology has revealed that the truth may have been hiding here all along, buried deep under layers of time and silence. When Rick and Marty Legina decided to investigate the North Swamp, even their closest team members doubted the idea. The ground was unstable, the water unpredictable, and the mud seemed endless. But Rick had always felt drawn to that place. Something about it seemed wrong, or perhaps too right. Strange tales had lingered for years, metallic clanks echoing from beneath the water, sudden chills in the air, and an occasional scent like burning metal drifting through the mist. For decades, those stories were brushed aside as myths. But this time, with modern instruments and sharper minds, the team set out to uncover what truly lay beneath the swamp. The first scans using ground-penetrating radar, GPR, changed everything. At first, the readings looked normal, layers of sediment, rock, and roots. Then the screen showed something impossible. Sharp, geometric lines, perfect right angles, a rectangular formation buried far below the surface, precise and symmetrical, far too deliberate to be nature's work. As the GPR swept further, metallic reflections began to appear. Then, tunnels, straight,
uneven, stretching outward from the structure like the veins of a machine. The entire team froze. They all knew the same truth. Nature doesn't make rectangles. Something had been built